So what are some caught in between hazards?
Oh, goodness. Just like there's struck by hazards, there's thousands of caught in between hazards also. When we start talking about caught in between, you talk about trenching and excavations, rotating equipment, unguarded parts
Okay.
on machinery or hand tools and stuff like that. Equipment rollovers, again, back to with the equipment, and then equipment maintenance. Let's start with trenching.
Okay.
Anything over 5 feet needs to have a trench box, and I should say that depending on the soil, your soil could collapse on you.
Okay.
It could be a lot of moisture, could be a lot of rain, could be muddy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you really have to look at that stuff. And 5 feet is a minimum to put a trench box in. And, every 25 feet, you need to have a ladder in that trench box.
Okay.
So that they can get in and out, so they can egress or
Yeah.
in and out of that, ascent or egress in and out of that trench box. So that's just one caught between things, and when you're talking about trenching. But rotating equipment, hundreds of things out there for rotating equipment, anywhere from a hand tool
Yeah.
to a stationary saw, to belts.
Yeah.
Big belt lines and stuff like that in a lot of process areas and stuff. Making sure that we have the correct guarding system up to not get caught in between that
Okay.
and the moving part. When you start talking about moving parts, is look at the clothing and the PPE you have when you're working around moving equipment. One of the biggest ones I think about when I start thinking about equipment is the crane area. As a crane turns, you want to that's a lot of movement when the load's turning and stuff like that. You don't want to be in between the outriggers of the crane and the counterweight
Yeah.
of that crane radius. Many accidents that happened right there where somebody's standing there, and sometimes it's the oiler of that crane. You have the operator, and then you have the crane oiler that works with them, that keeps the crane clean and all that stuff. He might be just standing there and not knowing that crane is turning,
Shifting, rotating.
and gets caught in between his outrigger
Yeah.
and himself and that counterweight, and it's critical.
Yeah.
So making sure that you don't put yourself in a position to be caught with something or caught in between two things, especially talking about running around with forklift operations.
Yeah.
Forklifts are constantly moving on your job sites. You don't want to put yourself in a position to be in between the forklift load and a still structure.
Yeah.
But caught in between that stuff, trenching, rotating equipment, unguarded parts. You don't want to be in the position, and look at the body positioning that you're in. Making sure that you're not positioning your body in a place where it could get hurt. Working on a belt line, a lot of belt lines don't have guards on them, and I've seen somebody out there picking up the dust or the dirt off the belt line, and if the belt line's running up, he's standing opposite of it and went to shovel. The shovel got caught, and the shovel kicked back and hit him in the stomach. So when you're working on that belt line, making sure you're going with the belt line, and if something gets caught, that pulls the equipment that you're working with away from you. So looking at your body positioning, knowing where you're at or where you're standing. And we were just talking a moment ago about the backup alarms on the equipment.
Yeah.
Even the spotter needs to understand that he doesn't want to put himself in a position, because he needs to look around and see what's behind him, because as he's backing up that equipment, he's backing up and only watching the equipment and what's on one side to the other, maybe not looking what's
Something else could be going on
behind him. So he has to pay attention to what's happening there. We made a joke one time, said even the spotter needs a spotter.
Yeah.
on these construction sites. But it's huge, just knowing your area. A lot of times we say 360-degree awareness, and knowing that. Take a look around before you actually start that process of work. Make sure that you understand what maybe everybody else is doing. Make sure you're not in a crane radius. Make sure you're not putting yourself in between a pallet on a forklift and a structural building.
Okay.
Making sure that when you're working on the equipment, making sure that it has the guards in place.
Yeah.